Well, welcome along to the Sporting Life Timeform preview of Day 3 of the Cheltenham Festival. Delighted to be joined by Dan Barber, Ben Fearnley and Michael Shinners to look ahead to the action. And we've also got Ryanair Chase, Michael. Sometimes it isn't the most competitive race of the festival. This year is an absolute stellar renewal.
Yeah, absolute belter. You've got the likes of the preview that we did, Sporting Life Timeform did, when there was a really good case made for Min and how he is, he's put in the most consistent performances of the chases over the last few years. Personally, I like St Calvados. I just feel that Harry Whittington, it's been well documented, his horses haven't been in fantastic form this year. They have struggled. But this horse ran, in my eyes, a really good race in the King George. Didn't appear to get home. I think they've taken that, dropped him back. He's obviously went very, very close at Cheltenham last year. And for me, I think in what looks a fantastic race, you five the field, the likes of Allaho, Min around about 6-1, and then you've got a number of horses 7, 8, 9-1. So it's a really competitive race. You could make claims for probably 7 or 8 of them, but for me, if I'm going to sort of nail my colours to the mat, I'm going to go for St Calvados.
Vote for St Calvados, Ben?
I think it's, unlike usually, I think a couple of weeks out, the Ryanair, for me, over the years, has been quite an attractive betting race because you can sort of work out which horses are likely to go for the Gold Cup, which are maybe drop back in trip, and you can really get that sense of a field thinning out. And if you can find one that's definitely going to run, you're probably onto some sort of value there. But this year, I think there are a number of horses that have actually had this as their number one aim for the whole season, to be honest. So it looks a lot more competitive than your usual renewal. I think you can make a case for plenty of them. Obviously, Min and St Calvados. St Calvados has claims of reversing that form with Min last year. He didn't get the clearest of runs. Min obviously arriving on the back of a poor effort as well. I know they looked after him very much after he made that mistake, but it's still not ideal, is it? And St Calvados did run an eye-catching race, as Shinners said, in that King George. The thing with him is I almost don't like the fact that they then tried 3 miles again, and they've been almost insistent on 3 miles, and they're just coming here because it didn't work out in the Cotswolds. So that sort of put me off him a little bit. He was one of my fancies, anti-post for the race, but sort of gone a little bit lukewarm on him. The other reason for going lukewarm on him is I think the likes of Allaho have got brilliant chances. He's up-and-comers. Even Mr. Fisher, he's a little bit forgotten about because he hasn't run for about 90-odd days, or he won't have run for 90-odd days. You can sort of forget how impressive he was when he last won. It was disappointing at Cheltenham on reappearance, obviously, but I thought that performance second time out in the rearranged Peterborough Chase was really, really good. So I wouldn't sort of write him off. He's unexposed as well. So essentially, I went round in circles and I couldn't really find a standout. I think it's a really, really competitive renewal and a race that I'll probably just watch, to be honest, and be boring.
Cheltenham coming through, and Sky Bet are on the charge, with money back as actual cash if you lose on the first race of the festival. Sky Bet, that's betting better.
Spoiler alert. I know Dan Barber has got a strong view on the Ryanair.
Yeah, I don't want it to be a preview night strong view where people start saying he should be 4-7 and the others need to start now.
10-1, yeah.
That's something we've missed out on. Somebody telling us that they wouldn't back Goshen at 1,000,000 to 1 or something like that. You'd at least lock in a free bet, wouldn't you, if you could. But I do like Allaho, and I think we know where we stand with a lot of this field. St Calvados probably is what he suggested he was last season. Maybe he's a couple of pounds better than that. I had Imperial Aura as my Ryanair project from the start of the season, but he's obviously got to put that early on seat behind him at Kempton. Noise has been positive from the stable, but I think this is just tailor-made for Allaho. I think they've tried 3 miles. They went down that route last season in RSA, and he went toe-to-toe with Manila Indo and wilted late on. They then tried it again second time back this season in the race. A Plutard won, and he wilted again in the straight. And for me, he's never gone through his races like an out-and-out stayer. I don't think he really got home when he tried the Albert Bartlett here as a novice hurdler. So they found the key to him, and as a result of these different experimentations, and it's not often that Mullins gets it wrong on that score, he's basically an unexposed horse around this sort of distance, and I just think he's got the perfect running style for this sort of distance. Powerful galloper who jumps extremely well, and I think he'll have a lot of them out of his comfort zone. And I agree, Min probably has got the best form claims, but scrambling home from St Calvados last season isn't up there with his best efforts, and I really didn't like the way he was shaping prior to that mistake, seeing him off at the Dublin Racing Festival. So we've got trip angle, Dave, the fact he's back to his right trip, and what he did last time. Maybe there were a couple of the Gigginstown lesser lights nowadays. Balco de Flo was one of them who tried to go with him in Ireland last time in the Kinloch Break, and he broke those two. And then you've got Ellie May, who's had the perfect setup in the race, nowhere near the lead, cruises into it, gets alongside. You think, well, surely he's going to be a bit vulnerable here. And there was nothing of the sort. He just saw her challenge off without much fuss after the last and won by 3. I think he's the best chaser in the division, or will prove to be so, even if at the moment Min's got slightly better claims on the book.
Thought tactics would be interesting though, because Mullins has obviously got loads of them in there. Obviously Allaho going forward, when he's sent forward, he seems best, doesn't he?
Yeah, I agree.
And you've also got like some Mellon, who I think reacted really well to sort of positive tactics in that when he was beaten over in Ireland. Obviously didn't fire last time, but he always bounces back at the Cheltenham Festival. Yeah. He's another one to throw in. I just thought, and Min obviously likes to be prominently ridden as well. I just thought it'd be interesting. I'm not saying that there's anything necessarily to read into it, but it'll be interesting to see how all the Mullins horses are ridden. Because
you'll probably get an idea just from that who is their number one, won't you?
Yeah.
The thing that's worrying for Min is, for me, over the first 3 or 4 in the race at Shackham Post won, he got out jumped everyone by Notebook and wasn't even travelling. If he performs like that in the early part of a strongly run race, he'll probably be shuffled right back.
He'll be beat after 3 fences.
And I don't see them gunning Mellon. I know it was positive. They went for home a long way out in Ireland, but I can't imagine them firing him out in front and trying to go toe-to-toe with Allaho. It just wouldn't be Mullins' style, would it?
They wouldn't sacrifice
any
of them either, would they? They'll all be ridden for their...
Exactly, yeah. We're not going to get a
locking
Mark Johnston on the flat thing kind of race, are we? I don't think.
What spectacle that would be, anyway. But one thing we do know is that Allaho is slightly taller than Monkfish, thanks to a video on Sporting Life's social media channels. Well worth checking out. Right, we're running out of time, so we're not going to talk about Envoy Allen in the March. That's obviously another highlight on day 3 of the festival. I'd like any other best bets you've got for the Thursday. I'll start with you, Michael. Anything else on your radar for the Thursday?
Well, I'll mention one, Dave, and then I'm going to throw back to you because I know you've got a very strong fancy. I am going to go in the Mares Novices Hurdle. I'm going to go for Hook Up.
Very well said.
For the Ritchie team. I thought she ran a really eye-catching race. She is very keen in her races, which would be a slight worry, but she had a really good race at the Dublin Racing Festival, staying on really, really strongly. Was kind of missed a little bit, I think, immediately after the race. But then I think when the dust had settled and then sort of seeing the place, she stayed on really nicely. She's been found now. She's around about 5-1. Willie Mullins has obviously got plenty of horses in with a chance in that race, but I feel like that run that she had behind Appreciated kind of sets the standard. So Hook Up for me in the Mares Novice Hurdle. But what about you, Dave?
Well, Dan spoilt it really. He's already mentioned Imperial Orva's case for the Ryanair. I actually tipped Imperial Orva for the Potemps about an hour ago, but by mistake. It was Imperial Alcazar for the Potemps, a horse that I'm very sweet on in there for the Fergal O'Brien team. Dan, elsewhere on Thursday.
Kim Muir, I'm going to go for Disha Abba for Hobbs and Johnson. 5th in the race last season where he didn't get the run of the rub of the green, a mistake sort of derailed him. And then he started the season dreadfully. I mean, if he was coming here after those first 2 runs, he'd be an absolute million. You couldn't possibly entertain him. But he slipped in the weights and really bounced back, I thought, at Sandown last time. And if that's just a precursor to the fact they've steadied the ship now, the stable's going better, he goes in looking well handicapped on last season's form. And it's not just well handicapped on last season's form, it's the fact that he was a progressive horse then, and he looked like he might rate £5 or £6 higher anyway. So I'm just hoping he can pick up where he left off last time and where he left off last season in a race that didn't go ideally for him. And he'll be 12s, 14s each way, something like that, in obviously a strong race.
Ben?
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to touch on the Marsh properly, but I'm keen on wanting a big price in that. Obviously, Envolen, very, very short price. But I think in behind, I think there's really much of a muchness in terms of the rating, certainly, that some of these horses have put up. And I think it's ripe for something at a big price to sort of get into the 3 behind Envolen. A horse called Black Bow for Willie Mullins, who I don't think really has shown his all yet as a chaser. He was very impressive on debut over in Ireland when he won, unseated next time in a graded race at Leopardstown. And the 2 starts prior to that, considering he was ridden forward on his first 2, they've held him up, dropped him right out against Energumene. And in those races, Energumene, obviously, he is their best 2-mile chaser. He was running over 2 miles, and Black Bow essentially just was in the race to gain some experience, to obviously pick some prize money up and show what he could do, but also without really showing his true potential, I didn't think. And interesting to read that Willie Mullins said that he thinks he's ready for 2.5 miles now, which would say that obviously the Marsh would be the option that they go for, and he's about 40 to 1. So I think each way he could easily go off a fair bit shorter than that and get into the 3. So Black Bow was one I was keen on in the Marsh. Elsewhere, I thought Glens of Antrim in the Mare's Novice. She's double figures as well. She's caught my eye a couple of times when reporting in Ireland, just running good races without winning behind a couple of nice geldings. One of them being Statler, who's obviously favourite for the Albert Bartlett. So she's been running into a couple of good horses, and she travels really, really well, really fluently, notably fluently. Her jumping's getting better by the run, and I just think that on slightly better ground, that's definitely going to suit her. She's a relative of Glenn's Melody, who obviously won the 2.5 mile mares race. Certainly bred to take well to Cheltenham. She just looks like she's going to have a bit more to offer, and she's a double figure price in a race where Mullins is going to have the key, isn't he? So you pick one of the Mullins ones basically, and you hope for the best. And she, to me, looks one with potential at a double figure price, Glens of Antrim.
Fantastic. Wonderful selections there, and a great day's racing to look forward to on day 3 of the Cheltenham Festival.